Hello everyone, here is what else I saw in June that I didn't already tell you about, part 1. I have a limited amount of time in which to film this video, so I'm just gonna dive right in. Movie number 1 is 1954's The Far Country, a western directed by Anthony Mann and starring Jimmy Stewart, this time as a man bent on driving his herd of cattle to its destination, no matter who gets in his way. Last month, I talked about Winchester 73, another Mann-Stewart collaboration, and I think I liked that movie better than this one. Both protagonists operate in gray territory, but here Stewart is more abrasive and morally questionable. He's got a lesson to learn over the course of the film, so they've got to leave lots of room for improvement, but the character just isn't that palatable to me, and I like Jimmy Stewart to be a character I can get behind. As the female lead, Ruth Roman is a beautiful, shrewd, strong-willed businesswoman. Sparks fly immediately between her and Stewart, but there's an ongoing battle of wills that keeps getting in the way of romance. Not that I was rooting for a relationship between them. I was afraid she was bad news almost from the get-go based on her business practices. The movie does spend a good chunk of time on a love triangle between Stewart, Roman, and Corinne Calvet, playing a wholesome French girl, basically the opposite of worldly wise Ruth Roman. Neither matchup struck me as a good idea, so rather than rooting for one pairing over the other, I was rooting for everyone to stay single. The movie also features Walter Brennan doing his thing and John McIntyre as the crooked lawman who's got it in for Stewart. The film travels through Alaska and the Yukon, which is a different setting for me. I don't watch Gold Rush movies usually, and of course, this goes without saying, the Technicolor photography was lovely. Movie number 2 is an adventure from 1965 produced by Hammer Films and based on a novel by H. Rider Haggard, She. Ursula Andress stars as Aisha, she who must be obeyed, an immortal queen of a lost city who believes a young Englishman, played by John Richardson, is her reincarnated love and calls him to join her in immortality. Hammer horror regulars Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee co-star, Cushing as the sensible major who fights to release his bewitched friend, and Lee as Aisha's jealous high priest. There's also Rosenda Monteros as the girl who falls for Aisha's man in the process of catching him. But it's definitely a vehicle to showcase Ursula Andress's beauty. As was to be expected, it includes a lot of sexiness, most overtly in the opening sequence where the movie has Peter Cushing and the other two men delivering dialogue with scantily clad girls dancing provocatively behind them, and Peter Cushing dances with them at one point. I don't think I'd call it kid-friendly, but for older viewers, it's an engaging adventure with equal parts mystery and spectacle. I thought the final sequence with the eternal flame was the best part. Movie number 3 is a noir from 1947, Lady in the Lake. Robert Montgomery directed and starred in this adaptation of Raymond Chandler's Philip Marlowe detective novel. I read the book in December, so I remember enough to recognize how much they changed, which is a lot. They cut all the scenes at the lake and turned it into a Christmas movie. The nature of the mystery is a little confusing, as it was in the book, and I would argue that the big draw here is not so much the substance as the innovative style. It's the first POV film using the camera as a character to show events from Marlowe's perspective. This effect is impressively and creatively executed. It's not a perfect illusion. The movement of the camera is a little too slow at times to believably represent a person, especially someone as quick as Marlowe, but of course they didn't want to make the audience feel sick. You do see Marlowe a couple times when he looks in a mirror, and there are a few cutaways where Marlowe addresses the audience to fill in extra details about the case. I didn't care for these scenes, which it turns out were not part of Montgomery's original concept. The studio insisted he include them. The sequences are abnormally long with few cuts, and the rest of the cast, which includes Audrey Totter and Lloyd Nolan, has to interact directly with the camera with often humorous results, especially on Totter's part. There's a romance incorporated, which doesn't really make sense and seems forced, and Montgomery isn't the most memorable Philip Marlowe out there. But I have no complaints with his delivery of the Chandler-style dialogue, and while the film has been criticized ever since its release for being gimmicky, I thought it was fun. Movie number 4 is an Irish film from 1979, The Hard Way. Patrick McGoohan plays a weary assassin who's had enough of his profession and quits, but his boss, Lee Van Cleef, insists he do one last job. The assassin finds his own way to get what he wants, but it's the hard way. This came across our path after we watched The Prisoner. You know how Amazon Prime works. It's a slowly building, dramatic film, heavy on silent tension. In my mind, it's worth it just to see the unusual matchup of McGoohan versus Van Cleef. Two people I would have bet a month ago never did a movie together. I enjoyed the final sequence the most, with the cat and mouse game and the large, mostly empty house where Lee Van Cleef's mocking laughter seems to bounce off the walls. Movie number 5 is 1962's Light in the Piazza, a film I've been interested in seeing for some time, as I'm fond of a couple songs from the stage musical. Light in the Piazza stars Olivia de Havilland, cool as a cucumber, and Christian Dior, as a mother on an extended vacation in Italy with her daughter Clara, played by the lovely Yvette Mimieux. Clara is a grown woman, but she has the maturity of a child due to an incident with a horse years ago. Her mother is protective of Clara's welfare and her heart after a run-in with friendly local Fabrizio Nacarelli, played by a boyish George Hamilton, who instantly falls in love with Clara. The two of them are amazingly sweet together, though, and he's so careful with Clara that her mother starts to wonder if it would be such a terrible thing for her daughter to marry him. Along the way, she makes the acquaintance of Fabrizio's father, played by oh-so-charming Rossano Brazzi, who matches de Havilland for coolness and offers a more liberated philosophy on life. It's an endearing story, especially on the mother-daughter front, although it never reaches the emotional apex of, say, Stella Dallas, but it's a different kind of film. The scenery is appealing, of course, and the entire cast is very charming, with the possible exception of Barry Sullivan as Clara's father, who doesn't share his wife's budding optimism regarding their daughter's future. I quite enjoyed the film, both its emotional moments and its gently humorous touches. Movie number 6 is 1957's Sweet Smell of Success, an intense drama about power play and ambition in the cutthroat world of big city columnists and their press agents. Sidney Falco, played by Tony Curtis, works for J.J. Hunsaker, played by Burt Lancaster, but does he love him, hate him, or just want to be him? Enmity and hero worship go side by side as Sidney's instructed to break up the relationship between J.J.'s overprotected kid sister and a jazz musician, and thus starts a twisted plan of deception and manipulation where everyone's in it for themselves and you in the audience only hope the right people get their just desserts. This is an excellent film, directed by Alexander McKendrick and written by Ernest Lehman and Clifford Odets. Sharp dialogue and sneaky wit make for some really good lines as Curtis and Lancaster trade barbs, verbally arm wrestling each other for dominance. It's a sleazy, seedy, backstabbing drama where each movement is punctuated with an explosion from Elmer Bernstein's powerful urban score. Movie number 7 is from 1972, The Master Touch. Kirk Douglas stars as a safecracker who's just gotten out of prison. He's immediately contacted by his old boss who wants him to do a big job, but Douglas decides to outsmart him and do the job for himself. I didn't think much of this one at first. It seems to be an Italian production set in Hamburg, and I'd hazard a guess that a sizable portion of the budget went to pay Douglas's salary. The quality of the version on Prime isn't very good, and allegedly this was filmed in Technicolor, but it looks like a movie someone recorded off their TV and uploaded illegally. The dubbed dialogue isn't always in sync, and there are a number of scenes that don't appear to have much to do with the plot. But I think the movie's got two things going for it. One is the surprising, ironic twist that gives the movie a satisfying boost in the final act. Two is the random, bombastic car chase that erupts in the middle of the movie. Its relevance to the plot is tenuous at best, but it's so insanely over the top that it's hilarious. It made me LOL, which might have startled my family, I'm not sure. I thought it was awesome, 10 out of 10, would totally watch the car chase sequence again. Last month, I talked about actor John Payne playing a man on the run in 1953's 99 River Street. The year before that, he starred in another film that put him in a tough spot, Kansas City Confidential. A perfect heist is pulled off, one man hiring 3 small-time crooks to rob a bank and making everyone wear creepy masks to conceal their identities so they can't rat on each other. John Payne is the innocent guy whose vehicle they use as a getaway car. The police go after him. When they finally admit he's not part of it and release him, he vows to find out who set him up. There are a lot of steps to this film. It travels around and it takes its time introducing new characters as they step into the picture. I admit there was an important reveal that went right over my head because I failed to recognize someone from the beginning of the movie, so I was in the dark for a while. Everyone else in the room knew what was going on, so that made me feel dumb. It's got a lot of recognizable faces in supporting roles. Preston Foster, Colleen Gray, and the 3 heavies are played by Neville Brand, Jack Elam, described in the film as a guy with weird eyes, and a young Lee Van Cleef, who'd already made his film debut in High Noon earlier that year. And movie number 9 is the 2014 film version of the 2005 musical biopic hit Jersey Boys, about the formation, success, and breakup of the 4 Seasons. Directed by Clint Eastwood, it depicts the tragedies and frustrations of the band's history, but also the powerful moments and fun comedic bits, too. I enjoyed the fourth wall-breaking storytelling method, where each member of the group gradually gets to share his perspective of how things really were. Several of the actors came over from the stage show, including John Lloyd Young, who won the Best Actor Tony for his portrayal of Frankie Valli on Broadway, and Eric Bergen, who played Bob Gaudio in the first national tour. Christopher Walken joins the cast in a supporting role as an aging gangster with a sensitive side who takes a shine to Frankie. I did wonder about the chronology of certain events. For example, we first hear the song My Eyes Adored You at a point long before Valli recorded it, but since Valli himself was involved in the making of the musical and the film, I guess I'll accept it. The movie is rated R, probably because of all the F-bombs, which are kind of startling in contrast with that signature clean, upbeat 4 Seasons sound. I'm a big-time oldies fan, so I knew all the featured songs, as did my mom, who got a big kick out of the movie. I don't know about her, but I definitely came away from it with the songs stuck in my head for a couple days, doing my own version of a Frankie Valli imitation, which isn't very good, and which I'm not gonna do for you. Sherry, Sherry baby, Sherry, Sherry baby, Sherry baby, Sherry baby, Sherry, can you come out tonight? I'm gonna cut it off there since we're about halfway through the list. Part 2 should be up Friday, I hope. I hope you enjoyed this video. A list of the movies can be found in the description. Let me know what you think of anything that I mentioned in the comments below, and I'll be back soon with part 2. Thanks for watching.